Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Souls Outside. This one's called Your Brain, Changing It and Engaging It. Ooh. We're going to bring on Ryan M. Montis to share his story, and then he's going to guide us through a different kind of self-hypnosis, one that's new for me, so that's super exciting, in our third section today. So stick around. Welcome to Souls Outside, where we're all about finding the trail to stay true to your path. We do this by inviting featured guests on every show to share with you how you can follow in their soul prints, so you can choose which trail maps you need to continue on your journey. My name is Shannon Pohl, and I'm loving having navigated my own pivot from engineering to now being a master results coach and hypnotherapist, plus a forest guide who loves getting outside so we can learn from the nature, foster stewardship, and really amplify our successes by being outside in nature. I'm so excited to have you join today's episode. Welcome to Souls Outside. All right, everyone. So today's episode of Souls Outside, Your Brain, Changing It and Engaging It, is super fun. And I'm really excited to bring Ryan Montis on in a few moments to share his story with us, and then later to share with us a special kind of self-hypnosis that, our brain is amazing. And I'm a hypnotherapy trainer. Ryan is as well, and I love how we can be trained in the same modality, and then our paths take different ways where we explore new and different things that we can share with each other. Right? We see that in all professions, where something that jazz is you dive into a little bit more deeper, or even just in your explorations and learnings, you come across new and more awesome ways, and not even more awesome, just new ways of doing things. So stick around for that, because I love the longer hypnotherapies and the longer self sessions, and I also really love the simplicity of the one that Ryan is going to is sharing with us later in the episode. And just as we get into some of it, and we'll hear a little bit more about this as Ryan shares a story, however, I wanted to share the big head of NLP. Boom, boom, boom. Remember, Neuro-linguistic programming, big long word. I like to refer to that as the alphabet of the universe, the ABCs, because it's how we're all programmed and wired, and gives us that base level of understanding and communication, so we can communicate with all humans. And really, who couldn't use more and better communication sometimes, or all the time? So just as we explore our brain and changing it, I just wanted to highlight, we're not going to go through all the details, because really it's just not important right now. And for those of you listening, you can't see the picture that I'm showing. But so if you're listening or watching, just think of your brain, and coming in our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth. Eyes, ears, nose, mouth, touch. Touch, that's the other 5 senses. This is all this external data coming into our brains. And it comes in from all these places. And we can't conceivably process all of the bits of information that are coming at us. Our brain is only going to pay attention to the loudest ones, the smelliest ones, the more atypical ones. When you walk into a room and it smells like onions, you're going to notice that, because it's not what you expected. It stands out. And how we get to those things that stand out is that our brain it's going to delete, distort, and generalize that information first. Because if you come home and your home is exactly how you left it, you're not really going to notice a whole heck of a lot, because it's the exact same you left it, and that's what you were expecting. Now, if there's onions cooking, or someone else came home before you and left their shoes in the front door, oh man. I definitely have gotten in trouble for that before. But these are things you're going to notice, because they stick out. So after our brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes, it goes through all these filters of all of our past experiences to finally weed out all of these bits of information. These millions and millions and millions of bits of information that is coming to our 5 senses every moment of every day. It weeds through all of them, and it finally gives us this movie in our head, and it combines with our emotions to, you know, combined in however we're standing, sitting, doing whatever, to finally give us our behavior. So there's so much that's happening, which is one of the things that fascinates me about hypnotherapy and all the other modalities that work with the power of our brain, which we're looking at obviously this season with hardcore brain power. Is there's so many things that we can be doing and so many ways to do more and to do better and to take ourselves to that next level. And so that's where I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on in our brain, all these filters that have to happen before we get to one behavior in 1 second. And then the whole process goes again for the next second and the next second and the next second. And so that's what I love about the self-hypnosis that Ryan's going to share with us later, is it's a matter of seconds, this one. So it's something on the fly, in the moment, when something happens, few seconds to make a change, to work with your brain and how it's functioning. And then, you know, you can go one of our guided meditations, guided hypnotherapy sessions to explore further. So with that, we'll take a quick musical interlude and bring on Ryan Montis. Stay tuned, everyone. All right, welcome everyone. So today we have with us Ryan M. Montis. I just have to say I love the middle initial because mine's an M as well. And Ryan is a hypnosis and NLP trainer, just like me, and he's gone into some super cool specifics of hypnosis that we'll get to in our second section when he shows us a different way of doing self-hypnosis that many people don't know about. However, for now, Ryan, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit and some of your awesome.
Okay, thank you, Shannon, and thank you, Shannon M. Poole, for having me here. Poole. It's a great honor, of course. So yes, like Shannon, I'm a trainer of neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy, which of course are fancy, powerful ways of accessing the unconscious mind of a person, right? And so, you know, I like to tell people that a lot of what you know, maybe half or more of what you know and what you do, you learned when you were a kid. You learned before the age of 7, you know, how to walk, how to talk, but also how to feel, how to experience emotions, how to, you know, how to go about many of the things that you do, including your values and your attitudes towards life and other people. That was all learned in childhood. And, you know, by accessing and it all lives in the unconscious mind. A lot of it's outside of our awareness. So when we give somebody tools to access those parts, those big parts of the unconscious mind, we give them the tools to figure out what's going on down there and then change it so that they can better be aligned with their goals, their aspirations, their desires, you know, so that people don't just want things, they take the action to reach those things. And that's the power of what I do. So it's my job, my business, to take those tools and not just help guide people, but to put those tools in the hands of other people who then go out and help other people. I create practitioners. That's me.
Very cool. I love hearing other people who are trained in the same modalities that I am describe how they're using them, because there's always those unique ways, which I know also comes a bit from our prior experience. And you, again, it's while both of us are trainers now, and that's what we use a lot of, it's very much influenced by our past. And you have a very fascinating one, I'll say. I've always enjoyed hearing your stories, and I guess now that I've tweaked everyone's curiosity, could you share with us a little bit of your path to now?
Yeah. So the path to now was long and winding, of course.
Yes, for many of us.
for most, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, the question I get a lot is, how did I get into NLP and hypnotherapy? How did I get into all this wacky unconscious mind
Yeah.
changing stuff? And you know, it started out totally as a personal development thing. You know, when I was younger, anxiety was a big part of my life. Social anxiety was a big part of my life. Shyness was a big part of my life. You know, and these other sort of personality traits that prevented me from doing the things that I wanted to do and meeting the people that I wanted to meet and living the way that I wanted to live. And it caused suffering for me. And so the one thing that I had going for me, I'm sure there were many things I had going for me, but the big thing I had going for me was that, academically I was pretty smart. My logic centers in my mind were pretty strong. My social intelligence may not have been so good, and my emotional intelligence may not have been so good, but the academic part of me was pretty sharp. So I was able to look for resources. I was able to look for paths to get the things that I wanted. And one of the paths that I discovered was just getting outside of your comfort zone. I came to, realize early on when I was lonely and bored and shy and scared, that people were having great success just doing stuff to get out of their comfort zone and move towards their goals. So one of the first things that I did was purposely apply for university outside of my home city, outside of my hometown. I was living in the Toronto area, and when I was 18, it was time to, apply for universities. I applied to Ottawa and Kingston and all these places because I was petrified to, do that, to go out on my own and be totally independent. And so I got into the University of Ottawa, and they accepted me and I accepted the offer. And before I knew it, I was living with a stranger, a roommate on residence, totally outside of my comfort zone, meeting new people every day, going to classes, and like straight into the deep end. And it was awesome. It was one of the best things that I ever did. And, that can only get you so far, because even though, I was coming out of my shell, the fear was still there, the shyness was still there, like all that stuff was still there. Going out and partying and having a few drinks certainly helped, but wasn't the solution, right?
Right.
It was a stepping stone on the path. And so I remember there was this very specific thing that happened. I was still suffering. I was still not happy with, my lack of self-confidence, my lack of self-esteem, and the way it was manifesting in my life. But I had that, like, I knew, at least I had the awareness of the problem and the desire to seek a solution. And I remember thinking, well, I should buy a book about this. I should buy a book to maybe, find a solution to fix this. And I remember going to like the chapters in downtown Ottawa and standing in the magazine section and like looking over at the self-help section and being too like embarrassed and shy to even go over to that section. I remember standing there and wanting to, and like being upset that I couldn't, and being so scared that somebody would see me pick up God forbid, a self-help book. Yeah. And then I'd have to go to the cache where, probably a female my own age would ring me through. And that was like a nightmare. And so I didn't buy it. I left. I never went to this section, right? And again, being resourceful in some way. This is now 16 years ago. Amazon didn't exist. eBay was just kind of starting out. No big retailers were selling stuff online, but I found a way to order a self-help book online, so I wouldn't have to, no one would know. I could be my secret.
Yeah. Did it come in like nondescript packaging?
I had roommates at the time. I had 4 roommates. So I was like waiting for the mail person so no one would see it.
Yeah. And these are the things we do, right? Like when there's something that we're like, no one should know, like the lengths we go to.
Like now I don't care. Like now I'll go hang out in the self-help section and like talk to people. Be like, have you read this one? Like, of course back then, like I was like, shyness and fear are almost always irrational. Those emotions didn't serve me, but for me, they were real, right? Yeah. And so I read this book, and that was like one of the first steps on my journey of coming out of that shell and releasing all that nonsense that was keeping me stuck. And those few books and self-study and reading stuff online got me to the point where, okay, I was starting to get better about being outgoing and doing things that I wanted to do. And I was able to become a private investigator. I did some education, and then, I broke into the world of private investigation, which a lot of people don't realize even exists in Canada, where I live. But
well, they made a TV show about one recently, so now I think people believe.
Yeah, this was like, again, 16 years ago. There was no like big famous Canadian private investigators at the time or anything. My father, when I was a kid, my father had been a private investigator. He's had a couple of careers, and he's a successful business owner, but he also at one time in my life was a private investigator. So that was always like in my mind and cool and like, wow, that's a real job people can do. So, you know, in my early 20s, I became a PI, and I was like on the road. I was doing surveillance, covert surveillance, hidden camera work, following people around, stakeouts, tons and tons of time, like cool stuff for like someone who's 21, 22 at the time. And a lot of stakeouts, a lot of time in my car. And I had this like cool car with tinted windows and extra equipment installed in it and stuff. I had a refrigerator in my car because I was in there so long. Yeah, like all out. And so the miraculous thing that happened was that I got bored. The miraculous thing that happened is staring at the side of a house, listening to the radio. You get really bored really quickly, right? Because there was, you know, there'd be periods where exciting stuff would happen and it'd be go, 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 and, you know, be on the radio with the team and all this stuff. But then there'd be like periods of 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 hours in a row where I'd be sitting there not doing anything. And so, other than watching. And so I started listening to audiobooks. And originally I just started listening to anything, whatever I could get. And then I started listening to biographies, and I started hearing these stories of people who had like gone from where I was to like where I wanted to be. They'd gone from like shy and reserved to like outgoing and rich and successful. And I started to notice this pattern. I started to notice this common thread amongst all these people who had left the pain behind, left the shame behind, and done big things. And in all of their cases, they had addressed these like unconscious patterns of behavior, these unconscious, unresolved emotions, all this stuff under the surface. Then they'd done it in different ways. And, you know, through that learning, through that research is where I connected with NLP and hypnotherapy. And I realized those are the gateways. Those are the keys. Those are the best ways I found from then all the way up to now to address stuff at the unconscious level. And so I started studying that. So even though, you know, I started my business in hypnotherapy and NLP in 2019, I've been studying it, you know, independently for the last 15 years now, actually. And so I went through and, you know, I did a short-ish career as a private investigator. And then the novelty kind of wore off. I was looking for a change. I joined the military. I was with the Canadian Armed Forces for 5 years in the primary reserve as a combat arms soldier. I was not deployed during that time. I didn't go to war. I didn't go to combat or anything like that. There was no significant enough conflicts during the time that I was in that I would have been deployed to. But I learned a ton, you know, and all of these things, you know, even upon discovering NLP and hypnotherapy, I didn't go from, you know, stuck to perfect the next day. It's been a process, and all of these experiences have helped. And then when I left the military, I did 5 years. I left the military. I knew I wanted to start a business. I knew I wanted to, you know, do something big. And again, following in my father's footsteps, you know, he got into law, and he has a successful company in that arena. I thought, well, I can do that too. And I started going to school to study the law, and I actually finished a paralegal program. And I was all ready to start a business in that industry. And I decided, you know what, before I do that, I love NLP and I love hypnotherapy so much, and I've still got some baggage and I've still got some issues I'd like to work on. I'm going to go take a course. I'm going to go take an official 7-day. I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to make this relatively big investment of time, money, and energy, and learn it for me, and you know, release the stuff that I want to release, and learn the stuff that I want to learn, and, you know, get really great at sales, and I'll be great at trials and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And about halfway through the course, like, it was so transformational and so experiential as a training, and so, and, you know, revolutionary. Even though I had studied NLP forever and studied Hypno forever, it's different when you go and you're in a mastermind of like-minded people led by an expert. It changed my life. It changed my world, and it changed my path. And I decided, oh, not only am I going to finish this 7-day course, I'm going to go through and do a ton of study and a ton of courses. I'm going to teach this stuff. I'm going to become a trainer. And I did, you know, I did exactly that. And I launched the company, and immediately started seeing results, you know, clients coming in, students coming in. It's been a blast. Does that, I don't even remember what the question was now, but
it's a very thorough answer. No, that was awesome. And like, one of the things we always like to ask our guests is, what was that pivot moment for you? And I mean, as you shared your story, we can identify there were a number of pivots that happened. And one of the things is that it was as much as there were moments where like in that moment it's like, oh, this is kind of like a isolated pivot, there really was this greater arc of change and journey. And that even though when we're sometimes faced with a decision, I think your story highlights that in the moment there's a decision, but there's that whole arc and journey that we have to experience that can take time. But at the same time, you can take a 7-day course and halfway through your whole world can change and you totally change the direction of it. So both pieces is interplay on it.
Absolutely. It's easy to look back, after it's all said and done and see the different, and connect the dots. Mm-hmm. The dots at the time, stood on their own. Like even today, I was thinking, they're all over. Even today, I was thinking about this movie I watched when I was like 16, and like at the time, it changed my life, but I didn't realize it was actually planting a seed for something that I would do like 20 years later, right? So yeah, it's really incredible to look back, at, and say, oh, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense, and here I am.
Hindsight is 2020. Awesome. Well, we're going to take a short musical interlude now, and when we come back, we're going to hear from Ryan a special kind of self-hypnosis that most people don't know about, and something that you can do along with us when we come back. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everyone. So we still have with us Ryan M. Montis, who is a hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming trainer, and he's about to share with us a special kind of self-hypnosis that most people don't know about. And before I turn it over to Ryan, we always like to ask our guests how they, honor their heart's desire to be outside. And I just wanted to share briefly that Ryan's answer was he literally goes outside, which is really, at the end of the day, the simple, short version of it. How do you honor it? You go outside. However, Ryan, would you like to share what kinds of things you do outside?
Sure, yeah. Maybe I didn't understand the question completely when I read it originally, but I am happy to elaborate on that. The most recent thing that I did outside was I did a full workout, about a 75-minute workout outside, which involved about 10 kilometers of running, intermittent running / jogging, and like push-ups in the grass and doing pull-ups from a soccer goalpost, and a bunch of other stuff. And that was a really nice, relaxing, great way to be out in nature and connected with nature. And then every now and then I like to do a hike, maybe throw on a weighted backpack and go out and walk the woods, see the water, all that great stuff. Nothing fancy, Well, one time I climbed a mountain. I climbed Grouse Mountain in BC. That was cool.
That would be cool.
But that's not really an everyday thing. I don't know if that's the the spirit of the answer, but just on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, just getting out there for a jog, breathing the air, looking at the birds, all that good stuff.
Amazing. And that's why we always ask all of our guests the question, because there's so many different answers, and it's really some of the simplest things. You don't have to make it big and crazy. Just if you're going to work out, well, how about you work out outside? And then you're getting, you're working out and you're outside. So a double dose. So it's perfect. And so now I'm super excited because this is something that I haven't learned before. This special kind of self-hypnosis that Ryan's going to describe and then guide us through today.
Cool. So special kind of self-hypnosis. There's a lot of different information on self-hypnosis out there, and a lot of it is correct and a lot of it is valuable. There's many different ways to use the phenomena of hypnosis on self to make change at the unconscious level, to move around ideas, move around emotions in the mind to better serve you. And the most common way really is to these days is to listen to a guided hypnotic recording. There's a lot of great ones out there on YouTube. I've even got a couple of really excellent ones you can find in my Instagram bio. But that's sort of the common way of doing it. And these include, hypnotic induction language, and then suggestion, and then what we call a count out or an induction at the end. And that works great, and it's a great experience. But what if you could do self-hypnosis in a second or two, a few times throughout the day? What if just you could build a habit where, every now and then you're just doing a quick self-hypnosis process that's giving you that benefit, and has the added benefit of repetition, and repetition being one of the most powerful and effective ways to program your unconscious mind for success. And so I discovered this way of doing it from one of my mentors, one of the people in the industry that I really look up to. His name is Freddie Jacquin, and he's a great hypnotherapist from the UK. I've studied his work closely, and it's influenced what I do with my clients and with my students very much. And Freddie teaches that anytime there's a spike in emotion in a human mind or in a human person, anytime there's a spike in emotion, it creates a window of suggestibility. It creates access to the unconscious mind, because as we know, all emotion originates in the unconscious. So it's as if when a person experiences this spike of emotion, this doorway suddenly bursts open in the barrier, the wall between the unconscious and conscious mind, to let the emotion out. And when that door is open, if we're elegant, if we're quick, we can slip in some suggestions, okay? And so maybe we'll do a quick demonstration first, and then I'll explain to everybody how you can use this when I'm not around, okay? So we're gonna create here, with intent, a little bit of a spike of emotion. And I want you to, if you're ready for it, and if you're willing to participate in this process, and if it sounds scary or bizarre, just don't. You don't have to. But for those listeners, I imagine most people are going to want to participate. It feels good. There's no risk whatsoever.
And I'll just, in the event you are driving or doing something else that requires some of your focus, stop that for right now, or pause and then come back to this.
Absolutely.
I'm going to assume, yeah, perfect.
And I agree. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. So don't do that if you're driving or chopping, so something like that. Make sure you do everything in safety. Okay. So Shannon, would you like to be my demonstration subject?
I would love to be your demo subject.
And thank you. And everybody who's following along at home or wherever, you can do this as well. You don't have to be directly in front of me. So what I'd like you to do, Shannon, is just pop out your hands directly in front of you, straight ahead of you like this. Interlock your fingers. Push your palms together so that they're flat, and then just a little bit of pressure together. And bend your elbows at a 90 degrees so that your knuckles are just below your eye line. Yeah, a little lower. Maybe 2 inches below your eye line. And then pop up your 2 index fingers so that they're facing each other. And place a gap of about 1 inch between those fingers. And just look at the gap between your fingers. Look at the gap between your fingers. And in your mind, I want you to realize that in a moment, these fingers are going to come together. There's a magnetic force, an invisible force pulling them together. And in your mind, I want you to see the faces of the people that you love, the people that love you, as that understanding that your fingers are going to come together. They're coming together now. In a moment, they are going to touch. You don't need to fight it. You can allow that to happen. You can imagine anything you need to imagine to allow that to happen now. And as soon as those fingers touch, your eyes will close. You'll feel a deep sense of relaxation. And again, bring back those faces of the people that you love, your arms frozen in place. See their faces, see their smiles, see the way they see you. Really feel that love now. And as you feel that love, realize that your hands are glued together as hard as you might try. You can't get them apart. Your hands are glued together now as you feel that love. The people you love, the people that love you. Go ahead and test it. You're a strong person, I know. Look at that, they're not coming apart. Okay, just relax now. Go ahead and see those faces just one more time. Ramp up the energy around those faces. Keep your eyes closed. And as I say that, notice and realize now that you're magnificent. Any limiting belief that you ever had, anybody put on you or you put on yourself, is just drifting away now as a sense of calm and warm and power comes totally over you. And only as quickly as that can finish taking place, you can notice that your hands are unglued, your arms can relax, you can bring them down to your lap. Some smooth breathing. And as soon as you're ready, as soon as all of those changes have integrated at a deep unconscious level, you can go ahead and open your eyes.
That was so cool.
Okay. And what did you notice?
It was, there was like when you said the things, something about magnificence, like it was like everything was just like whoosh, whoosh, like out, like dissipating.
Okay.
And going.
Good.
And definitely very relaxing and like a happy place.
Yeah. And I noticed the hands. I saw the muscles in the forearms flexing. You tried to pull them apart. They seem to be glued together. Very good. So that's like an example of a waking hypnotic phenomenon. Okay. And so what we did there and this is important because everybody who's listening, you don't have to do the hands glued together thing or anything like that, but you can use the same phenomena. And so what I did was I created a spike in emotion when I asked Shannon and when I asked the listeners to see the faces of the people you love, the people that love you. That creates a spike of emotion and all of the chemicals that are associated with it, right? And that opens that door to the unconscious mind. So when I made the suggestion, your hands are glued together, it went right in. Okay, and when I made the suggestion for you to notice your magnificence and how any limiting belief is going to drift away now, that went right in, and it took hold at a deep unconscious level. So my advice to your listeners is either create emotional spikes by using the power of your imagination and have a mantra or have a suggestion ready to say to yourself, okay? And it only takes a few seconds, and you can do it at your desk, you can do it on the bus, or program yourself to be mindful of every moment when you experience an emotional spike throughout the day, whether it's happy or sad or mad, it doesn't matter. Anytime you experience an emotional spike, have 2 or 3 mantras or affirmations or suggestions just ready in your mind. Recognize an emotional spike and start saying them to yourself.
That is so cool.
And that's going to automatically, thank you. And that's going to automatically program your unconscious mind. And the more you do it, the stronger it gets. And the stronger it gets, the more compelled to do it you will be. And that's my, you know, I think when I heard this method of self-hypnosis, I heard it maybe 6 months ago, and I've been studying hypnosis for 15 years. I'd never heard it before. Mm-hmm. So again, all credit goes to Freddie Jacquin, the great modern hypnotherapist, but it's a powerful technique. Super easy to use. Use it at any time. Use it anywhere. Use it often.
Very cool. Oh, I'm so excited. Like, well, as a hypnotherapist myself, I love learning new ways of using the tools. And this was amazing. So thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing that with all of us. Thank you for joining us on the show. And everyone listening, in case you didn't catch it earlier, if you go to Ryan's Instagram, in his bio, there's a link where you can get other really cool hypno recordings. And they're really cool hypno recordings. So I encourage you all. And they're free. They are free, very cool hypno recordings. Yes.
Yeah. It's at Ryan Montis NLP on Instagram. Or just search Ryan Montis. I'll come up. I'm the most famous Ryan Montis.
Awesome. And the link will be in the show notes as well, for those of you who really just want to copy and paste it. Awesome. So check it out. Yeah, Ryan, thank you for joining us. And yeah, everyone listening and watching, have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Souls Outside, and we hope you enjoyed walking in our featured guest soul prints as much as we did. As always, we like to wrap up each episode with our extreme gratitude and appreciation for our founding sponsors, who quite literally made it possible for Souls Outside to become a reality. First off, special thanks goes to Eche Savas and her company Palindrome Design for the amazing cover art, and noting that their sponsorship comes in support of their passion project, Self-Build Sustainable. We'd also like to thank Chuck Henry for his amazing music, original music, that is featured throughout the episode. And of course, Elise Cannon, our amazing editor, who quite literally made it possible for any of these episodes to see the light of day. They probably would still be on a hard drive on my computer without her expertise, skill, and passion for editing. So we thank them so much. And until next time, we hope you enjoy your journey and continue following in the soul prints of those who have gone before. Hey, one last thing before you go. If you wish you could talk about this episode with myself, our featured guest, or other like-minded individuals like yourself, join us on Facebook or LinkedIn in our Souls Outside Facebook and LinkedIn groups. On Facebook, we do watch parties. On both, we have awesome conversations about what we talked about and are able to answer your questions on how you can go even further on your soul print journey. See you there.